Hello everyone, welcome to another video where we dive into the world of Pu-erh tea, where I share some of my experiences and lessons I learned along the way. When we're talking about the approach towards making tea, and I really like this saying I read in a book recently that said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And I love that, because if I look back on my journey in Pu-erh, and tea in general, when I first got into it, everything was so new. Everything was so fascinating. I wanted every gaiwan and tea pitcher and kettle, and I wanted to try every tea on the planet. And of course, that journey has obviously changed quite drastically over time. But that beginning kind of interest and beauty was amazing, but it also was very difficult to discern quality or focus on anything, because there was just so many things coming at me. And then there was a time after a few years where I started to collect a lot of different antiques and teawares, and maybe too many antiques and teawares, and I didn't really learn to cherish any of my teaware, let alone take a single piece of teaware and focus on it and identify, is this good quality? What is the raw material that was used to make this teaware? Is it safe? What are the glazes used? What artist made it? Does it have good function when I pour it to the tea? Does it pour well, or is it a little haphazard? Does it capture the aroma perfectly when I pour the liquid? Does my cup make the water softer and sweeter? Does the aroma last in the teacup? So all of these questions I didn't really start to ask until later, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years. And I only started to ask those questions when I started to deeply start to question the quality of the tea I was drinking. And so why would I start to question the quality of the tea I was drinking? Because in the beginning, everything's so new. But the purpose of all this was to, one, I wanted to drink tea because I thought it was very relaxing. I don't know if your first time you drank tea, I wasn't even drinking tea. I was drinking like Siberian rose and chrysanthemum in like a little soy sauce teapot I got from like the dollar store, right? It wasn't even about the tea or the teaware. It was just, I'm gonna make this flower or tea and I feel very relaxed because my life was very hectic and stressful, right? That's why we originally came to tea. And I think we don't want to lose sight of that. And so later on, I wanted to get different types of tea and try all the flavors. And that can be overstimulating when there's 1,000 different teas or 100 different teas to drink, because then you always want to try something new. And if you're always trying something new, how can you learn to appreciate the quality of something? Because if you think about tea, so much effort goes into making tea. The roasting process, the picking, maybe it's a high elevation, maybe it's old tea trees. How does the farmer take care of that land? How do they process it? How do they pack it? How do they serve it? And there's a particular way to brew each tea that's very different. How do I have this tea reach its full potential? You can kind of see this endless road you can go down. And so over the time, I've gotten more and more cups and pitchers and gaiwans, and then I started to take the leap into a little bit more expensive tea. And when you start to buy tea that's more expensive, you tend to be a little more careful with it. You tend to cherish it more. You're a little bit more careful about your brewing. If I spent a decent amount of money on a small piece of tea, I might want to notice, what is my temperature? Is it perfect? What is the tea to water ratio I'm using? Does this gaiwan going to be able to hold the aroma and the taste? Is it going to be able to pour perfectly? You start to pay attention to those things. And then when you have more expensive teaware, you might be more attentive to how you use those, right? If I just have a few pieces of teaware, a table, gaiwan, a pitcher, and a cup, I probably will keep my tea station a lot more clean because I cherish them more, rather than having 6 gaiwans, 17 different teas. Maybe they're all open, I'm brewing a bunch, it's all a mess, right? I'm going to be less likely to actually sit down and enjoy that tea because there's so much going on. And so as I collected more teaware, more cups, more tea, I started to realize that I lost the beauty of simply sitting down and enjoying a good cup of tea. I just lost it. And so I started to wind down. I started to only want to use gaiwans that had good functionality, that made the tea taste well, that I knew the material that was used to make that teaware was clean and of good quality. And then I narrowed it down a little bit more. I wanted it very, very simplistically. I wanted the same cup or two that I use every time, same pitcher, then I become very familiar. I become very familiar with this gaiwan, very familiar with the tea pitcher, very familiar with the cup. And then I want to make sure my kettle is in the same kettle I use. I become very familiar with the dialing, the using it, the pouring of the kettle. And so then all of my tea setup can become second nature. And why is that important? Why is it important that all of my teaware becomes second nature? Not only the place I put it, but the simplicity of the setup. Because then it allows me to revisit the original purpose on why I drink tea, which is to enjoy a good cup of tea. And if all of this is second nature, then I can really hone into how can I best brew this cup of tea? What temperature do I need to use? How long do I need to steep it? I can tweak it. Also, revisiting my 3-day rule, I use a lot. It almost forces you to build a relationship with that tea, learn about that tea, learn how high is too high of a temperature, how low is not high enough to get the flavor out, and you start to learn more about that tea. And if you can correctly prepare a tea to allow it to be its full potential, that is a very valuable thing. That has a lot of skill. And then you also will be able to identify the quality of the tea easier, because all of this is second nature. You also will enjoy making tea better. You will enjoy drinking tea more. You want to share it with other people because it's very simple, it's very clean, and you're focusing on the most important aspect of brewing tea, which is the tea itself, rather than getting distracted with all of the teaware and gaiwans and cups, because it can be very easy to go into this whole world of tea and kind of get obsessed with teaware, and then you'll see that the money you have is being spread to so many different things, almost too much variety, where you can't build a focus and you can't master a particular thing, which in this case I think is the quality of the tea should be the center stage of all of this. So I think the simplicity of your tea setup is very important. The simplicity of your approach to tea is very important. I think there's a lot of value to being able to identify a few good teas and have a few good teas in your collection rather than a massive amount of teas, right? Be a master of a few rather than a jack of all trades, because usually a jack of all trades is a master of none. And so it'll bring more clarity in your own confidence when brewing tea. It'll bring more confidence when you talk about tea to other people, because you have a few teas you truly understand. You've brewed hundreds of times, you've drunk on different weather, you've drunk in different temperatures, you understand the tea to water ratio, and it will just make you that much more confident when you brew and share tea. So I think it's important through your tea journey, we should all kind of express and learn more, but try to narrow in and focus on a few particular teas you really enjoy and you want to understand, and then simplify your tea setup to reflect those teas, to allow those teas to reach their full potential. So I do know this sounds kind of maybe esoteric to some folks, but in my experience, I've noticed that I just was way too confused and had way too many teawares and too many options and too many roads to go down, and I was a total mess to the point where I wasn't even understand the quality of the tea I'm drinking. Because if I have 250 pours in my closet, a half a cake of each, I'm never going to understand those teas. Nor am I going to be able to understand what is valuable and what isn't. And if you have a lot of different teas, you're always going to be chasing more variety and difference rather than chasing quality. And I think it's a lot more beneficial to have a few teas of great quality that you continually want to drink than 200 teas that you feel indifferent about. And in order to understand those few teas you very, very enjoy, you have to spend time with those teas. You have to drink them like the 3-day rule, consistently, day after day. Are you still craving that tea after drinking it every day? Most teas would not have that feeling or craving. But very high quality tea does continually want you to crave and drink that tea day after day, even in a repetitive way. And I have also noticed the use of good quality teaware is the same. Really good quality functional teaware I want to use in and day out. Where some subpar or low quality teaware I can get bored of very quickly. So remember that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Apply that to all aspects of your tea life, your teaware, your tea setup, your tea station, the quality of the tea you are drinking. And I think you'll notice that overall, everything will enhance. The experience, sharing with friends, drinking tea, etc. So I hope that little window and my own experience was helpful to your own, and you can apply some of those aspects to your own tea brewing, I have found it to be quite helpful and enjoyable along the way as well. So thanks so much. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and give it a like and subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you in some of my future videos. Take care.